I'm Erin Broyard-Stennis, President of Level 55 Consulting, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the life and work of artist Timothy Washington, a multi-talented artist who works fluidly with all mediums as he creates powerful works of art which provide social commentary, elevates women, and focuses on God consciousness. In 1971, Timothy was featured in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art's seminal show, Three Graphic Artists. The groundbreaking exhibition, which also included Charles White and David Hammons, was one of the first museum surveys of African American artists. Today, we are taking a deeper look into the life and legacy of Timothy Washington, an artist who continues to make work to this day. I came to know Timothy in 1983 when he and his young twin daughters moved across the street from my family home in Leimert Park. Over the next several decades, I closely followed Timothy's career. Timothy's early art practice was influenced by his family and neighborhood, by his sensitivity to the materials around him, and by God's own creations, which he considers his primary source of inspiration. Timothy also acknowledges his grandmother, who made beautiful, exquisitely detailed high-relief quilts and blankets with small treasures tucked inside them, and his grandfather, a skilled carpenter. A professional artist neighbor who let Timothy handle materials is also credited with introducing the budding young prodigy to the craft of creating art. Timothy spent time walking in his Watts neighborhood, picking up objects that he could incorporate into his art. His early childhood placed him in close proximity to the Watts Towers, which he and his brothers would boldly climb. Timothy's curious investigation of the 17 monumental interconnected mosaic towers was at once architectural, visual and formal, and served as being a lasting and important touchstone. From an early age, Timothy's mother encouraged her son's interest in art. While his two brothers would sit at the dinner table discussing math equations, young Timothy would sit nearby drawing, seemingly lost in his own world. Timothy was 6 years old when his family moved out of Watts and into middle-class neighborhoods where there were more opportunities and resources. Teachers began to take notice of the gifted artist's talent in drawing and sculpture, and in 1966, during his senior year in high school, Timothy was encouraged to apply for a scholarship to attend the renowned Chouinard Art Institute in Los Angeles, where Charles White was a teacher. Under the tutelage of Chouinard's qualified staff, Timothy refined his drawing skills and began to create powerful metal and wooden sculptures. 1968 was the year of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, and 21-year-old Timothy felt compelled to share his universal message of peace and love for humankind. Originally titled African Montage, Love Thy Neighbor exemplifies Timothy's early Afrofuturistic aesthetic. The imposing 7-foot-plus sculpture was assembled from dozens of pieces of scrap metal, including bits of hulls and hundreds of nails. The female figure represents an alien messenger who comes to Earth to encourage humankind to love one another. Nails driven into the chest cavity suggest the crucifixion, and the message, "Love thy neighbor," is unobtrusively engraved on the elongated legs. By encrusting her body with hundreds of nails, Timothy alludes to Nkisi power figures from Congo, Africa, as an homage to his ancestors. From the beginning of Timothy's formal artistic practice, he sought to provide social commentary while elevating the female form and the divinity of humankind. These themes are evidenced in African Montage.
The positive message that comes through on the spiritual level is the most valid for me. So that would deal with the peaceful approach. I'm very much conscious of other continents and the human rights. I'm just glad that I'm free enough to take advantage of the transfer from the Holy Spirit.
In his sophomore year, Timothy took an etching class and quickly realized that he preferred etching onto an aluminum or copper plate rather than following the traditional printmaking process of etching onto a hard surface and transferring the image onto paper via a printing press.
Most of my recognition came from doing graphic statements on aluminum. Now, the way that developed was going all the way far back when in school. One of the first assignments was to do something which we considered personal. And at that time, when I went home, I found that I was classified in the Army. So right away, I wanted to create an anti-war statement. And I thought about material, and I wanted to work on a material that's cold and hard like war. When I had a class in etching, with acid etch, the plate that you make the prints from was much more exciting to me than the print itself, which is on paper. So way back then, I started showing my art on metal.
Timothy's early methodology was to disrupt the formal art practice by creating innovative and exploratory methods. He did not want to be confined by artificial boundaries in art. The very first work that Timothy created on aluminum was 1A. His desire to work on a hard, cold surface paralleled his feeling about the ongoing Vietnam War. These early graphic statements on aluminum showcase Timothy's desire to communicate messages that dealt with issues prevalent during his time as a student at Chouinard. It was during Timothy's time at Chouinard that Otis Art Institute student Suzanne Jackson opened Gallery 32 just west of downtown Los Angeles. Timothy soon became one of Jackson's circle of artists, and his work was featured in several group shows. He also had his first solo show before the gallery closed 3 years later. Timothy's work has long been associated with the Black Power movement, and associations with fellow artists Betty Saar, John Outerbridge, Noah Purifoy, and John Riddle further cemented in Timothy a desire to express himself and convey powerful messages to a larger audience. Across town in Leimert Park, a Black upper-middle-class enclave, brothers Alonzo and Dale Davis opened Brockman Gallery. Soon they were representing Timothy, and it was here that he began to make inroads with a well-heeled established collector base in Los Angeles. In 1968, two Los Angeles County Museum of Art preparators, Claude Booker and Cecil Ferguson, founded the Black Arts Council. Timothy's artwork was featured on the cover of their brochure. The BAC was determined to get the work of Black artists displayed at LACMA and increase Black attendance at the institution. The BAC campaign resulted in the successful 1971 exhibition, Three Graphic Artists. BAC members Charles White, David Hammons, and Timothy Washington were selected to have their work shown, and attendance soared as a result of the landmark survey show. Also in 1971, NBC produced the Emmy Award-winning documentary, Renaissance in Black, featuring Timothy and fellow artist John Riddle. In all, 100 works of art were shown to depict different periods in their lives. Timothy created this commanding dry point on aluminum work, aptly titled Renaissance in Black, for the documentary. By this time, Timothy was working as a scenic graphic artist for multiple studios to support his family, while he continued to create important works. These works were exhibited at local galleries and institutions in Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Monterey. One of his notable works, Silent Majority, was included in a group show in Chicago, Illinois, alongside works by fellow artists Charles White, David Hammons, and Romare Bearden, among others. The 1971 survey show, Three Graphic Artists, was met with resistance, with the organizers picketing the opening reception, owing to the three artists being shown in what was considered a secondary space. There were also concerns expressed about White not having been offered a solo exhibition. However, the Black Arts Council and LACMA continued to forge ahead, and in 1972, two of Timothy's dry point on aluminum works were featured in A Panorama of Black Artists. The survey show featured the work of 51 Black artists. In the brochure, guest curator Carol Green wrote about one of Timothy's works. Kentucky Derby is a handsome picture of a young Black man standing beside his horse. But symbols suggest that both the man and the horse are pawns in a game from which they derive little. The demand for Timothy's dry point on aluminum works was growing, but he also created powerful carved woodworks during this period as well. God is a triptych fashioned out of a found tabletop that presents the message God is as opposed to God is not. A piece of burnt wood retrieved from the 1965 riots is inlaid alongside a figure whose carved hands point to the words God is. The circle beneath the hand contains black-eyed peas as an homage to Timothy's ancestors, and a locked box on the right represents a Bible. The lock on the box is meant to signify the book's preciousness. The figure's eyes are round with mirrored pieces encircling the right eye, causing the viewer to look within and reflect. In the early 80s, Timothy sought to innovate the use of materials and techniques and shifted to producing futuristic assemblage sculptures, which he continues to make today. To create them, Timothy dips cotton in white glue, then applies it to shaped wire hanger armatures. The sculptures, or totems, are a celebration of play, both literally and figuratively. After painting, often in his favored purple and green, the works are decorated with found objects collected from his neighborhood. In recent years, Timothy has been the subject of much well-deserved and somewhat overdue attention. In 2017, London's Tate Modern organized the landmark exhibition, Soul of a Nation, Art in the Age of Black Power. The 2-decade survey of works by Black American artists, which traveled to museums across the United States, featured Washington's work alongside that of friends and peers, including David Hammons, Charles White, John Outerbridge, and Betty Saar. In late 2019, Washington mounted a solo show, Citizenship, at the California African American Museum. This multimedia installation was highly acclaimed, and Washington was in rare form at the opening night event as he danced around and played his 10-plus years in the making masterpiece, Futuristic Animal, an indistinct 4-legged creature made from found objects, including basketballs, cotton balls, and bits of glass, jewelry, chains, and other knickknacks. In March of 2020, Timothy was scheduled to travel to New York for an opening night party to celebrate the opening of Pucker Up, his first solo gallery exhibition in several years at famed Salon 94, when the pandemic forced gallery owners across the city to shutter. Salon 94 shifted to an online platform, and in the following months, Timothy was once again lauded by the press for his presentation of rare early work from the 60s and 70s, alongside a constellation of polychromatic figures bedecked and bejeweled with ephemera culled from life. Timothy and Salon 94 client Jay-Z met at the opening night party for Soul of a Nation at the Broad in Los Angeles, and as a result of their association, Beyoncé included 2 of Timothy's sculptures in her film Black is King on Disney+. Most recently, Timothy has received critical acclaim for solo shows at Duane Thomas Gallery, New York, and Wilding Cran Gallery in Los Angeles, as well as a group show at Craft Contemporary in Los Angeles. A half-century after Washington's initial breakout, the 74-year-old spiritual, Afrofuturistic assemblage and 3D wall sculptures are sought after by top collectors, curators, and celebrities. To this day, the artist shows no sign of slowing down. In fact, he is clearer than he ever has been and has a renewed sense of vigor and vitality. To this day, the artist continues to produce works that tackle social justice issues, elevate the female form, and focus on the divinity of humankind. I hope you've enjoyed this Artist in Focus presented by LACMA.